all new. AM 1150 WTMP.com.
All righty. Okay.
We can do it.
All righty.
Did Derek call this morning?
All righty. Well, the mic kind of just fell off, but other than that, I guess we got you okay.
You just don't know your own strength, Eddie.
I guess the other folks kind of weakened it.
We're feeling it strong.
And all I had to do was, I guess, just touch it. And,
Bam.
And it fell off, but and now.
All the muscles.
Well,
you start talking now.
Let's see if we can get the engineer to come in here and change these mics up for me, just to get the show going. See if I go to one of these other mics.
Busy being an engineer.
Well, it's more than.
Okay.
There we go.
We did it.
All right.
3 men got it done. How about that?
All right. How many men do it take?
We got it. I think we just swapped it out.
After 11 years, the professionals have gotten it done.
Yeah.
That's right. You just boop, go right off.
Yeah.
That will.
Okay. I'm sorry, audience. We kind of had some technical difficulty, in making some stuff happen, and of course with three males,
It took the one to come in and fix it.
Yeah, but it took the best person in the house to come in and fix the scenario, and she's limping. And
my goodness.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, God bless y'all. For the show that we got today.
You better put seatbelts on, folks.
I'm saying it right now,
Ooh.
right early in the process. I know we had a hair-raising experience for the listeners last week, and if you're not one of our regular listeners, maybe let me go ahead and say it now. For those who got sensitive Democratic ears, like I said, we usually don't do this, but I could not let this pass.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got sensitive Democratic ears, this may be a hard show for you to hear. So because of that, I'm giving you fair warning. The nature of this show, we don't do politically correct at all. The nature of, this is Porch Talk Radio.
No sugarcoating?
Yeah, this is Porch Talk Radio for those who stumbled upon us without intentionally being here.
God bless you.
We're going to do some things and say some things that might offend you. We're not going to apologize for offending you because it ain't our fault. Things are what they are and where they are, so we're just pointing them out. Now, you may not have got this, and you may not get this anywhere else.
The truth.
So we're going to go ahead and say it. And again, if you don't agree,
it's okay.
The nature of this program is not for us to be friends. The nature of this program is for us to give you information and help. Hopefully, it'll help make you stronger at some point in time in some of your future decision making.
So this is not to help their high self-esteem?
So anyway, let's do this. Let's go ahead and get the show started.
Mm-hmm.
This is a call-in talk show. The most popular in the Tampa Bay area.
Year after year.
In the urban market.
Again.
So we're going to go ahead and say that. If you want to call in during the show, I mean over the next hour, the calling number, WTMP, 813-251-9867. 813-251-9867. If you want to call me during the week after the show and have this conversation, you can call me on my cell phone. Again, like my kids used to say a long time ago. Like I used to hear kids say, "I ain't afraid. I ain't afraid of you."
Ain't scared.
Ain't afraid of you. So I'm putting my number out there. So if you want to call, have a conversation, my cell phone number is 813-12. If you want to email me, Eddie, EDDIE, porchtalkradio.com. Just the way it sounds. porchtalkradio.com. Eddie, PorchTalkRadio.com. Facebook Live. Hey, all you guys, we are getting better at Facebook Live. So it's more than just a radio show.
We just had another pretty face here.
It's actually a TV show. And we used to do TV.
Yes, we did.
At Tampa Bay Community Network. We used to do TV.
Back when Gravity was my friend.
So we did some TV, and now we're doing Facebook. So it's similar. It's not quite TV with all the production and all the stuff that go on in a TV studio, but it's what we have available here.
And Eddie, with faces like ours, we're perfect for radio.
Yeah, this is great. I got a face made for radio.
I can agree with that.
All right, now some of this other stuff you may not agree with so much, folks. Well, let's start it off lightly, and then I guess as it goes along, it may get harder for some folks to deal with. Ken Welch. You remember I talked to you guys several weeks ago about the mayoral race that's happening over in Pinellas County, city of St. Pete. So, 9 or 10 candidates.
Mm-hmm.
The front runner through the whole process was a black guy.
Was.
Well, he's still black, but he had. See, it was 2 black guys and 7 or 8 white folks. Okay. Which is a different election process than having a black guy, 2 black guys, and 6 or 7, white guys, girls and ladies and all that kind of stuff. Whatever sex you want to call it. That thing is touchy.
It's fluid.
It's touchy now.
It's kind of fluidy.
But this will not tell, and I'm gonna say it the way I mean it, whether St. Pete or Pinellas is prejudice or not, because some people may read it that way.
Mm-hmm. But
because if it becomes a black against white race, then of course his opponent, whose name is Robert Blackmon,
that's the white guy.
is the white guy. The
With the name
Blackmon is the white guy in the St. Pete race.
Boy.
Okay, so it's not black man, it's Blackmon. BLAKMON, not MAN. So it ain't Robert Blackmon.
It's rigged
it's
already.
Blackmon. Okay, but those 2 are left, and come November, they'll have the runoff. And what I'm gonna tell you, folks here in Hillsborough County, black folks, white folks, if you want to see history made right across the bay, don't just watch. Participate. Get involved. Help Ken Welch. A lot of times say I don't want to pick. No, I'm picking. I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Help Ken Welch become the first black mayor in St. Petersburg. I remember one time I had a white person ask me, why is the first black person to do something so important nowadays? Because it ain't happened before.
Breaks the cycle.
It's a part of history. Forever, if you the first black to do something, it may not be record-breaking, recorded for the annals of time,
but
it means a lot to you, and it means a lot to
community.
a few people in the community and stuff like that. I was the first black to get a degree in microbiology from the University of South Florida. Nobody may not ever say anything about it, other than folks who are familiar with South Florida and the history and some of the stuff like that. But there's some blacks who was the first to do stuff there that's only important to those people. But it's still important to those people. Because one of the graduates, one of my old friends from USF, Otis Anthony, has an institution at USF, helped start the institution of Black Life. And every now and then, stuff happens to us that may not be important to other people in the community. That don't make it less important
Sure.
to us
Sure.
as black folks. And one thing about history, you need to keep your own. Other people can try, but it's important to you. It should be important to you. Not just the little things, but the little things, the big things, and all that stuff in between. So anyway, good luck, King Welch. Hopefully you help us all make history. Because if Ken Welch becomes the first black mayor of St. Petersburg, you know, I'm like a whole bunch of other people. You know, I'm gonna stick my chest out and say, hey, okay, we did it. Now on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get one in Tampa.
That's right.
All right. Got that said. Before I get into my agenda for the day, I gotta say something else. It's a lot of stuff that I have, that I keep, and from time to time, you know, I hear stuff, and it makes sense to know where some of this old stuff that we hear about come from. And I've been had this on my agenda for weeks. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna read one today, and I may read another one, you know, sometime in the next month or so, you know. But there was a time in the 1800s, 1700s, you know, in different places where folks used to drink ale and whiskey from lead cups. Yeah, you know, lead poisoning. So some people actually died from that. So the combination of ale and whiskey and stuff sometimes cause some drunks to literally fall to the side of the road in the ditch. And so the old drunk in the ditch thing, it used to be a time that used to be normal. And some people would ride by and see the guy laying in the ditch and say, he's dead. Or they would think he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
So what they would do, they would prepare him for burial, him or her for burial.
Is this a Bill thing?
They would lay in the kitchen on the kitchen table. Now we're talking about 1600, 1700, before we got all fancy like we do things today. They would keep them there for a couple of days. And the family would gather around and eat and drink and wait to see if they would wake up. Hence the custom of holding awake.
Oh my goodness.
That's where it comes from.
I had no idea. I heard the Bell thing.
I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So in England, the old and small used to have people who were buried. They would bury people because, you know, medicine wasn't where it was today. So every now and then, somebody walking by the graveyard, they would hear tapping from the ground. So they would occasionally dig people back up and found that they had buried somebody who was not dead. They were just drunk or knocked out or had some kind of illness or something, but they wasn't dead. And then they had occasion to dig up folks and found scratching claw marks on the inside of the casket.
But they were gone.
Yeah, but they had actually died, so they had been there so long. They didn't dig them up immediately. You know, for other reasons they dug them up. So 1 out of 25 coffins were found to have scratch marks on the inside, and they realized that they had buried the folks and they were still alive. So they would tie, this is what, a string to the wrist of the corpse. That's the person laying in the casket they thought was dead. They'd tie a string. It led from the coffin, it went through the coffin, up the ground, to a bell. A little bell. They got little bells. You can see them. You know, my wife watches that Antique Roadshow, and every now and then they have little things like, you know, these little bells that show up. Well,
Great bells.
it went to a place, and someone, again, we're talking about a couple hundred years ago, someone would have to sit out in the graveyard all night and listen for the bell. That's how we got the term graveyard shift. All those people who work at night, that's how you got the term graveyard shift.
Yeah. Huh.
Those folks would listen for the bell, and thus someone could say, saved by the bell.
Oh my goodness. We are rolling.
all this stuff we take for granted, all these folk tales usually have a point of reference, some point in time in history.
There we go. Saved by the bell.
So, and this is the last part of this. So once you were saved by the bell, you was considered to be a dead ringer. A dead ringer.
Oh, boy. Wow. Y'all writing this down? Y'all better be writing this down.
Okay. Now we've all had a nice little joke.
Education time.
I'm going to proceed to piss everybody off.
We're just sharing the good news, the truth.
Yeah. So I just wanted to provide, you know, some
A
laughter,
buffer.
some humor, you know, some other stuff, you know. So cause last week the show was hard from beginning to end. So we talking about, you know, teaching your kids to write cursive and what happened in some of the private schools, what wasn't happening to a lot of the public schools, and how as a society, you know, we have just eroded. I mean, we're going backwards. I mean,
You know, and Eddie, right to that point, I just recently heard a little message on how self-esteem classes have been such a disaster for kids. Just because you're breathing, you're awesome and you're perfect and you don't need to do anything. As opposed to, what about character? How about someone just believing and helping you out to get that next level? But this self-esteem baloney has been such a disaster for the kids raised in that nowadays they're just an absolute mess. And they're like, well, I may not know how to read and write, but I got high self-esteem.
that don't make them have high self-esteem either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. As the show began, let me give you some background. I actually I went to an event, and it had several U.S. Congress persons there, men and women. And they spoke about the process of how we got to where we are in Afghanistan. Now, I ain't heard nobody today mention Afghanistan and what's going on. It is the giant pink elephant in the middle of everybody's room that lives in America. Everybody in America, one way or the other, you can ignore it, but it happened. And it happened for one reason. Because we got a weak, and that's WEAK. We got a weak president.
Eddie, I really believe it's payback.
And I know a lot of folks disagree with that statement. But don't listen to me. Don't give a crap about what I'm saying. we left hundreds of billions with a B of dollars worth equipment there.
Mhm.
I know people say, well, he didn't have to. I'm going to tell you something. If you got a planned
Oh, you have to have one of those.
exit,
That's not what Democrats do.
you kind of make arrangements. A couple of months, start taking a couple of tanks out. You take a couple of trucks, a couple of buses,
Maybe 100 helicopters.
a couple of helicopters, a couple of airplanes, a couple of computers. Then you start getting people out. We've seen planned exits before.
And that worked fine.
I'm just saying.
But there was a plan.
Because we didn't win or lose the war, according to, even though we've been over there for 20 years, according to a lot of the talking heads from Washington, D.C., we didn't lose. But for some reason or another, now I'm going to tell you, I don't know how many of you folks have ever been in a fight before and you got your ass whooped. Usually under those circumstances, when you're retreating, you're not trying to pick up the stuff that was on the ground, and you dropped something or you lost something while you was in the process of getting your butt whooped.
Because it's your life now.
When you're running away, you kind of just get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
You leave everything behind. You forget about all that stuff, and you're trying to find safety. You're trying to find a safe place.
Save your behind.
That's not there. That's what I saw. Now I can tell you, they can tell me something, and you see, because this country has experts that flour, sugarcoat, dress up the reality of what's happening, and then they feed it to you.
They mean CNN again.
Again, like pablum poop.
Uh-huh.
They feed it to you, and no matter what you see, no matter what the reality is,
Okay.
you are supposed to believe what they tell you. Now, let's take an example. And I was kind of talking about this before we came in to do the show. We was having a conversation, with our engineer, beautiful young lady. And I said all week they've been talking about suicide bombers killed over 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
Suicide bombers. Okay, now don't take anything else I'm saying. Just think in your mind what suicide bomber actually means. That means that I probably had some kind of explosive device, exploded it on myself, hoping to kill, hurt, maim folks around me. And if you saw those pictures, they had thousands and thousands of people trying to get to the airport.
Mm-hmm. Because there was no plan.
Now, the nature of a suicide bomber
Is to find that kind of stuff.
is that I'm going to die. And I don't care, but, at the end of the day, I'm going to take a bunch of folks with me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I hear that they took an American drone. First, the other day they killed one, and then I hear they killed a couple more. If it was just, like they've been trying to lead you to believe all week, a suicide bomber terrorist, how are they finding other folks to kill with the drones? You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying, every now and then, stuff don't make common sense. It don't make sense if the only people involved in this whole bombing were the suicide bombers. So, so it had to be some kind of organization, other folks involved.
So basically, Eddie, I think you're trying to do a bird's eye view, saying obviously we don't have control over anything, but yet we can still take out one person with the drone.
That probably cost millions of dollars.
Yeah. But yet we can't.
We showed them.
Yeah, really. We can't control the rest of what's going on. And the people here in the United States are being fed by this media that is just bent on giving us this misinformation, wrong information. And I really believe, Eddie, behind it all, because China has thanked America, because now they can have the Afghan mines for lithium, which is what they wanted. It's because Russia and China did not move out of Afghanistan with the emissaries. The embassies are still there. In fact, they've got relationships now. And yet we didn't have a plan to get out of there, and we still don't have a plan to get out of there.
I ain't gonna say we didn't have a plan. I'm saying if they had one, it was bad. They had the ass whoop plan. We got ass whoop. Let's get the hell out of here. That appears to me to be the plan, because not only did they leave hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment, they lost and left a couple of $1 trillion with a T, worth of natural minerals and
Lithium.
Resources
Lithium.
that's in the ground that other people want. So I don't know if we just say, China, come and take it.
Yeah.
You can have it.
They're happy.
We spent enough time, energy, and effort.
And money.
I don't know if there's some kind of backdoor deal that's happening that we don't know anything about. And let me tell you something, Democrats. I'm only talking to Democrats. I listen, and I have an awful lot of people in this community who are Democrats. But you, the majority of you, if what I'm saying don't affect you, don't get mad. If you get mad, it's like I throw a pin in a pig pen, and the pig I hit with a rock is the one that squeals. Okay, so I'm telling you that from the beginning. But most of you are very vicious. So you got Democrats who are either Republican,
Oh yeah,
or either Republican sympathizers. So that means they're registered Democrats, but they vote Republican. Because they are afraid to tell you. Again, you're vicious people. I don't mind telling everybody I'm a Republican. Everybody know me, know I'm a black Republican. And you're vicious to me, and I ain't trying to hide it. So when you find out that Joe Blow, your friend, your cousin, your sister, your boyfriend, aunt, uncle, whatever, are Democrats, you turn on them like the plague, like they plague. So I'm gonna tell you outright, it's hard to know locally how many of you folks are actually Democrats, how many of you folks are Republican. We know the majority of you are Democrats. But it's an awful lot of Democrats, because I'm going to tell you, every other week, I get a call or I see somebody in public that say, Eddie, I'm a Republican. Or Eddie, I vote Republican. Or I like what you're saying. But I can't tell my friends because they're so hard. It's hard to explain.
Well, Eddie, there's kind of a catch-22, because A, you have to be strong enough in your beliefs and your principles. So, you know what, this is what I stand for. I know this is what's right, and I'm going to go to my grave this way. And then other people go, well, I don't want to offend anybody. Okay, you've already been brainwashed, if that's the case. Eddie, looking at the history of the Democratic Party in general, Stalin was asked one day, how do you get these people to follow you? And Stalin was at a restaurant. It's like an interview, and the Stalin told the waiter, bring me a chicken. And when you're Stalin, you want a chicken, they get you a chicken. I don't know where they got it from, but they got this boy a chicken. And right there in front of that interview person, Stalin began to pull the feathers off of this chicken, live chicken. He almost plucked the whole thing naked. He set that chicken down, and he got a piece of bread and he walked off. Then he stopped, turned around, and put the bread down. That chicken came to him, and that chicken got up against him. And just like the Democrat voters, the history of what the party has done to minorities has been horrible. It's been horrible. But yet today, we still see them in full support of it.
And again,
Wow.
I'm gonna say this. It's some people who have been afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Some people who've never had a backbone.
Oh.
And I don't expect you guys, girls, whatever you call yourself, to stand up to those vicious people who call Trump a bully.
Mm.
But, you know, I got people who absolutely know I'm a Republican. I stand up in a room full of 1,000 white Republicans and say whatever it is I need to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am not afraid of the white folks and I ain't afraid of the black folks. Because, see, the nature of me and the nature of this particular program, I fund the program and I work for me. So I ain't got to worry about some boss, a boss lady, a boss man, Monday or Tuesday next week being upset by something I said. So I get to say what I mean.
Now, Eddie, I think you touched on the fact that this is a principle conversation now. This is about you having principles and standards you're sticking to. It doesn't matter whatever happens. This is where I'm always going to land right here. I know that. That's a principle, and that's not being taught in our school systems anymore because they're too busy working on high self-esteem. But that's not being taught anymore as opposed to character. You got to have character. You build some principles. You stick to those. And sometimes we got friends, but things don't work out.
But we way beyond that. And what I'm talking about is it's the nature of people. Some people have never stuck up for anything ever in their life. So I don't expect them to stick up for being Republicans when all their family and friends and everybody else are Democrats. I did it. Everybody in my household, the one that I live in, the one that I lived in when I was a kid, they was all Democrats. But like I said, at the end of the day, you know, my problem is that I believe in my own feelings, my own virtues, and things that life have taught me.
Not groupthink.
So I'm not a part of the groupthink process. So I think for myself.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Therefore, I am literally dangerous to the entire country because it's not a whole lot of black folks, and I'm saying
Hispanics are right there with them, Eddie.
And you know what I'm talking about, who think for themselves because it's safer.
Mm-hmm. Go with the flow.
There's a lot of folks who are looking for that safe haven, kind of like Biden was looking for safe haven. He has never been strong.
No.
He's not going to get strong because they made him president.
Nobody can call off his accomplishments, that's for sure.
And I know it's a whole bunch of, you know, folks because you're black and he's a Democrat and he's president. You know, I'm going to tell you something real funny. Somehow, and you guys know who you're talking about. You know who I'm talking about. Trump was my president. Yeah, well, Trump, your president. Trump, you know, even my sister, even one of my sisters, that's your president. Obama was her president, and Trump is mine.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. See, I'm not offended by that concept or that ideology. Now, let me tell you something else. Biden is your president. You may get one better in the future, but right now, he's a weakling.
Eddie, you're being awfully nice.
And I'm saying it.
You're being awfully fraud. You're being awfully nice.
And I know nobody all day has said anything like that. Even though these same people, every other conversation I had didn't have a problem of calling Trump a bigot and Trump was this and Trump a bully and Trump,
that's different.
You know, and all that stuff. I'm telling you right now, you got what you wanted. You got a weak-ass president.
He's a fraud.
And he ain't just got weak. He's always been weak.
But wait a minute now. I want devil's advocate right here. Let me tell you now. He's not running anything. Obama's team is running everything. And I'm not even sure he knows that Afghanistan's gone to heck in a handbasket and it's flaming out. He may not even know. He's not allowed to watch just regular TV, Eddie. He can't do that. In fact, they just had a conversation where he was talking to the reporters and someone tried to ask him a question. He said, no, I can't answer you. I have a script I have to follow. I can only ask certain reporters. So Obama's team is running this, and I think they purposely did this to Joe because Joe's not alone.
Well, let me go ahead and say that. I talk about stuff that I think I know. I don't know who's running it.
Joe doesn't either.
But I don't think it's Joe.
Mm-mm,
I'm not gonna say it's Obama.
No, it's team.
Because Obama got a multi-million-dollar house in
Martha's Vineyard.
in the Hamptons.
Also.
And beachfront property.
Because he's worried about climate change.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Okay, if climate change is America's biggest, greatest
Oh boy.
enemy, why the hell, when you had every day the most influential, important people in the world telling you what was happening with the climate, would you go buy beachfront property? I'm just saying.
Eddie, a $14 million beachfront property.
Some things make sense, some things don't. I'm just telling you. Ooh. I lived through the 70s and the 80s when Tampa and Miami and all these other places were going to be underwater in 20, 30 years. Well, it's 20, 30 years. Tampa ain't underwater, Miami ain't underwater, and we got ex-presidents still buying beachfront property. So there's something to me that's not making any sense. I'm just saying.
But Eddie, I still believe that there's a team around Biden, and every president has a team around them. And the team has been put there, I think they're accomplishing their purpose because they want that 25th Amendment slapped on Biden to kick him out and give it over to Kamala. I really believe it was set up from the day he walked into that office. They had the paperwork drafted up, Eddie. So I believe this is just a setup for him, and he knows absolutely nothing.
It may be, but come 2024, they'll have another election. And I know this. They're not going to make Kamala Harris president.
The most unpopular VP in the planet.
And they're not going to run her against Trump. So it's something maybe happening that we know nothing about.
Hey, they can bring Obama back.
But I've just said, the president you currently have is very weak. He's not going to fight the Japanese. He's not going to fight the Chinese.
Russia.
He ain't going to fight nobody, you know. And it's not because we don't like war. We're a warring nation. We've always been a warring nation, even though we say we're trying to stay out of war. You know, we only get in if we're provoked.
We just sent the CIA to kill off the leaders.
You know, whatever the deal is. But the modern world power system has a guy showing up in a room. Now, and I'm going to tell you, everybody know, when you get people in a room, and I hate to say it like this, but y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't care if you admit it to yourself or not. If you go to the dog park, I'm going to use that as an example. A lot of y'all will know. All those dogs quickly figure out who the leader is.
Who's the dominant one? Yeah.
And who the weak ones are. It's the nature of being in that facility.
They sense it.
That facsimile. I don't think it's a room of leaders in the world that Joe Biden can walk into and everybody in the room think he's a...
Oh my God, there's Joe.
He's a leader. He's a strong leader. I'm just saying. And I'm not saying it because, you know, they've had pictures of him crying. I know every now and then it's okay for a guy to show his feminine side. And there's crying because you're emotional.
But then there's...
And then there's crying because you're overwhelmed. You see what I'm saying? There's two different kinds of crying.
So you don't hug me in one of them, is that right?
There's crying because you're about to get your ass whooped. I used to do that when I was a kid. When your mama
get that
look at you,
give me that switch.
She get that look.
Oh.
You know, yeah, them kind of tears. You know, you start crying.
Crocodile tears.
So you may be able to fought it off, have a feel sorry for you or something. But that's the nature of where we are as a country. And there's a lot of folks trying to put a good, strong face forward. A whole bunch of people look like me that makes excuses every day. I hear them. I don't believe them. I don't think you believe them. But I think you've been taught long and hard. And that many white folks got what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
They had a strong president. They didn't want it. And I think they wanted a weak president.
Mm-hmm. Just a puppet.
And I think
That's what China needed.
we passed. Well, I'm gonna tell you what the congressperson said. We passed a $1 trillion infrastructure bill in which most of the people did not vote on the bill. What they voted on was like a trick, where somebody says something and says, we're going to improve the infrastructure and this and that, and I'm not going to make a motion. Nancy Pelosi comes up and say, okay, we're gonna vote on the vote. So we're not gonna vote on the bill.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna vote on the idea. we want to do something good for the country.
For the cameras.
And I think this is be good for the country. So let's vote. Let's vote on seeing if we can do something good for the country. Not necessarily the infrastructure $1 trillion bill that they talked about for the last 2 weeks. They never voted on that. At least that's what the Congress people said. They never actually had a vote on that $1 trillion bill.
And Eddie, out of that $1 trillion, which is one with a bunch of zeros behind it, 6 or 9 or 12 zeros. Yeah, okay, that's
12.
a lot of zeros, more than my pocketbook, that's for sure, with today. But looking at that amount of money, we know right now that less than 9% of it actually goes towards actual physical infrastructure.
Only a couple $100 billion of the $1 trillion will actually go for infrastructure.
So the balance
It
goes
goes to all this other pablum poop that they keep throwing at us, like free college and free this and free that.
Who backs that loan for us?
Nobody.
I thought China was China backing it?
No, they don't need the Chinese for that.
We just print our own money out?
Yeah, we'll print it. We'll print it till we get it.
Oh, like a banana republic.
We'll get it till we get it right.
Just keep printing up.
Well, but again, the nature of it is we're helping. See, it's the intention. See what we get caught up on.
It feels
they
good.
they get it out there. We intend to do good. Now, what happens?
Never will.
What happens as a people, as black folks? They say they've got great intention. Now, it may turn out horrible for us.
But
Slavery had good intentions.
it kept people employed, and it kept them with a place to stay, and it kept food in them.
Back in the day, they was intending to do good things. It just never happened.
And that lie continues today, Eddie.
What happens is we don't measure the results. We measure the intention. So if somebody come at us with good intentions and they got a hatchet, a knife or a sword or something in their hand, I'm gonna tell you, me, if I got a gun, they ask a shot. I'm just saying, because that type of good intention is not gonna help me. At the end of their good intentions, I'm gonna be hurt, I'm gonna be injured, I'm gonna be dead. And that's what we can't figure out, we can't recognize. When somebody say, like the Democratic Party do on a regular basis, we're gonna help y'all.
Like the IRS saying that we're going to help you.
Like
I'm
Reagan,
here to help.
Like Reagan used to say. Reagan say the worst thing you can ever hear as a citizen is, "I'm from the government, I'm here to help you."
Yeah, how's that work out?
Yeah, that mean you're in for hurting. So anyway, on this day,
All right,
so we can get it in.
let's go.
On this day, August the 28th, 1833, slavery, 1833.
That's well back.
Slavery was banned by the British Parliament throughout the British Empire.
Which is pretty big.
And that's 30 years before we had the Emancipation Proclamation. In the British Empire, there was a time from sunrise to sunset, everything that you saw was in the British Empire. It was that big. Oh, no, that wasn't it. The sun never set on the British Empire. That was the saying. I'm sorry. I am so sorry I got it wrong the first time out. The sun never sets on the British Empire. It was that big. But somehow, even though they didn't have slavery, but they didn't have slavery to the degree that we had slavery. So our slavery started back in the 1400s, 1500s. So they may have had some slavery, but it wasn't institutionalized the way we had it here. Okay, on this day, August 28th, 1963, Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech at the Civil Rights Rally in Washington, D.C., and they had more than 200,000 people
back then
attended.
All that's been shredded now, in progress.
On this day, August 28th, 1996, a divorcee was issued to Britain's Prince Charles and Princess Diana.
He messed up.
Yes, he did.
Big time.
This was the official end of the 15-year marriage. They were married 15 years. And last but not least, on this day, in 2014, Google announced its Project Wing. Now, I know ain't many of y'all heard of Project Wing. What Project Wing? What is Project Wing? Project Wing was aimed at delivering products, Amazon, across a city using flying vehicles.
Today called drones.
Well, again,
Which is Amazon. Okay, you're right.
But Google started it in 2014 on this date.
Man.
Gabriel.
Well, this has just been issued out by Mr. Fraudulent Fauci saying fully vaccinated people can take their mask off in the shower if no one else is home. Y'all catch that. There's a certain way it has to work for you to be able to do it. Nancy Pelosi just had her fundraiser just within the last couple of weeks. Hundreds of people showed up, and the only ones wearing masks were the servants, of course, because that's what servants do. But none of the Democrats there, whether donors or friends, that showed up, they didn't have a mask. You still wearing yours? Let's see. Getting on. Taliban takes Afghanistan. Biden celebrates, in the meantime, women's equality. This is stupidity on display. The Taliban are raping, beating, and killing women, while Mr. Dumbfounded Joe is celebrating women's equality. Boy, Joe, I tell you what. Meanwhile, Joe gives the enemy a list on who to kill and where they can be found, and all the people that were part of helping out the United States. So they have shared that now. And then, of course, Kamala Harris owns a gun, but doesn't want you to. Bernie Sanders makes millions, but doesn't want you to. AOC flies on private jets, but doesn't want you to. Obama picks his own doctors, but doesn't want you to. See a pattern here, folks? Hello. By the way, there's almost 800,000 registered sex offenders in the United States, and they don't carry a card because it violates their privacy. but yet we're going to carry a vaccination passport? Huh. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, State Department, said some Americans trapped in Afghanistan, they were told, that's too bad, you chose to stay. I think they missed something there. Meanwhile, Joe Biden also admits Americans will be left behind in Afghanistan after withdrawing troops. So sad, too bad. Now to lighten the load, I bought a little bag of air the other day. The company that made it was kind enough to include some potato chips in it as well. New York governor discloses, the one that just took over, the lieutenant governor for New York, just took over. She's disclosed another 12,000 bodies that died because of COVID, of retirees that the prior Democrat governor put infected people with the old people so they can kind of clean up the rolls a little bit. Pretty effective. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfield, he has an evening program, is king of late night as his Fox News show beats out Colbert. He's still on TV. Jimmy Kimmel and Fallon. People just don't want to hear that liberal dribble anymore. The Saints tickets are selling for less than $1 after the team requires fans to be vaccinated or have a negative COVID test. What's that saying? Be woke, go broke? What's the other one that just came out? Be everything that goes woke turns to shit. Washington Public Schools forces unvaccinated student athletes to wear ankle monitors. And yep, back before I got married, I was so single right then. I just remember standing on the edge of a cliff and I shouted, I love you! And my echo returned, I just want to be friends. That's it for me, folks. Keep smiling.
All right. I'm going to leave you with this. It's one of those days. When I was in grade school, back in 1959.
Oh my goodness.
That's first grade.
59. Dad, you weren't using stones.
59, all the way up to 1969. That's first grade to ninth grade.
Back in the day.
10th grade, we went to white school. They shut down all the black schools. But I'm going to tell you something that wasn't, and if you'd have told me this back then, I'd have said you lying. You know something? Never had a bottle of water. Nobody bottled and sold water.
Yeah, from the garden hose.
Every school, every public building had water fountains.
Sometimes it worked.
The water was free. They even had black fountains and they had white fountains. So that you didn't mix up the spit or the slob or the stuff that came off your chin. You know, when you wasn't quite tall enough to get up to where the faucet was. And if you'd have been the one, because I'm going to tell you something now. They got places where a bottle of water cost as much as beer and liquor.
Well, I got that one fixed in.
Literally.
$5 some places, yeah.
And I'm not talking about the big jumbo gallon thing.
No.
I'm talking about the little 12-ounce
Mini
plastic thing of water.
I've seen it.
Some places cost $4 or $5. Now think about it. Had you been the brainiac that figured it out back when I was a kid, and if you just said, I'm going to put this in a bottle and we're going to sell it, and we're going to make millions of dollars, and people all over the world is going to buy water.
In a plastic bottle.
They'd have put me in a pen. They'd have put me in a suit. But I'm going to tell you, the difference between genius and idiotic stupidity is a very, very
Fine line.
fine line.
Eddie, if you can find the investors for such crazy ideas.
Now, let me think
Go.
about this. If there's a way, now, and I'm gonna tell you they do it, but it ain't caught on yet. So if somebody do this, give me a cut.
Come on.
They got cylinders that you can buy that's 100% pure oxygen.
Okay.
When you're in the hospital and when you're in some other places and when you're in the lab, you're doing experiments and stuff. But the air we breathe is only 21% oxygen.
Hmm.
Now, if you get sick, and if you're real sick, they'll put you on pure oxygen, because what pure oxygen does, it energizes your body at the cellular level, because every cell in your body uses oxygen.
Now, Eddie, real quick to what you said about silly ideas that suddenly hit. In Japan, there is a guy that was literally putting in cans mountain air, and he made millions selling this can of mountain air. People would pop the top and quickly put it on their nose and breathe it and go. They had mountain air for that moment, and this boy made millions on such a silly idea on mountain air, because they were actually just put together out in the mountains.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like spring water. You know, find a natural spring somewhere, don't process it at all, put it in a bottle, I don't care what's in it.
Fish do stuff in that. I don't know, Eddie.
I don't care what's in it, and sell it at a premium price. This is not just water, it is spring water straight from the ground. So anyway, Tampa Bay, just something to think about.
There you go.
It wasn't all bad today. We talked about the president, but we talked about, selling air and selling water.
There you go.
So the future's here, and it's bright, and we will survive. We've survived the past, so,
we've
so the
had
future's just another,
many bad presidents we've run.
just the next process. So anyway, Tampa Bay, we love you. Next week, same bat time, same bat station. We'll be here to do it again. Tampa Bay, we love you. Bye-bye.
God bless.
See ya.